In this video, we're going to talk about the shit maelstrom that was Donald Trump's Twitter feed yesterday. It's always a shitstorm, but yesterday it was on a whole new level. Of course, what happened is Donald Trump retweeted not one, but 3 different anti-Muslim propaganda videos originally shared by Jayda Fransen. Jayda Fransen, for those of you who don't know, is the deputy leader of Britain First, a controversial right-wing anti-immigrant and specifically anti-Muslim political organization in the United Kingdom. They are so radical and controversial that even Paul Joseph Watson of InfoWars has denounced them, if you needed a litmus test. Personally, I do view them as a terrorist organization, and I'm going to justify why a little bit later on in this video. So Donald Trump retweeted 3 of these videos that she shared with inflammatory captions, and he did not add any context, he did not add any commentary, but when there was an immediate and enormous wave of backlash, Donald Trump responded in classic Donald Trump fashion, which is going on and on about national security and radical Islamic terrorism. And I found that particularly interesting because I went and watched all 3 of these videos, and none of them has anything to do with radical Islamic terrorism. So I'm going to go ahead and read you the clickbait captions that these videos were shared with, and then I'm going to talk about them. So the first video was shared with the caption, "Video, Muslim migrant beats up Dutch boy on crutches." The second was, "Video, Muslim destroys a statue of Virgin Mary." And the third was, "Video, Islamist mob pushes teenage boy off roof and beats him to death." So, in spite of the captions, the videos themselves have nothing at all that gives them any more context. There's no source for the video or indication where they came from. But I watched each of these videos in the order I just described them. The first video does appear to depict a non-white boy beating up a blonde white kid with crutches. I do feel the need to point out that there is no way in the video to tell that this boy is Muslim. There's no way to know his race or country of origin at all, and there's no means of determining whether or not he was actually born in the country that he's in the video. We know absolutely nothing about the situation or the context or the conflict or why these people are fighting. But what I can tell you is that it has nothing to do with radical Islamic terrorism because it's 2 teenage boys getting in a fight. And realistically, it is 1 teenage boy picking on a disabled kid by the looks of it, and that's not okay. But it's not radical Islamic terrorism either. The second video depicts a Muslim man smashing a statue of the Virgin Mary. There's, again, no context to this video, just a Muslim man smashing the Virgin Mary, so we have no idea why or what reasoning is behind this. All we know is that he's doing it. But A, that has absolutely nothing to do with radical Islamic terrorism, nothing at all. B, all he's doing is disrespecting the religious iconography of another culture. There's no violence, there's not even any active hatred, it seems, in the video. All it is smashing a statue from a religion that, you know, frequently preaches peace and then bombs Middle Eastern countries. So I actually feel that his criticism is pretty valid, and again, smashing a statue, a small statue you can hold between your hands, by the way, is completely harmless. Ultimately, in the grand scheme of things, it's harmless. I don't understand how people are so upset by this video, especially because in the United States, I can find plenty of videos of Americans burning Qurans. I can find American Christians drawing the Prophet Muhammad just to annoy Muslims. It's not like you're respectful of Muslim religious iconography, so I don't understand why you feel entitled to have them be respectful of yours. That's a double standard, but whatever. The third video is the one that it is the least clear what's happening, but from outside sources, apparently the video is from 2013, and it was actually a celebration in Egypt. And so it's not a mob, it's a group of people celebrating in the streets, and it does sound like a celebration. There sounds like there's music and dancing and things going on. And what we see is a bunch of teenage boys appear to be sitting on top of a high-rise that has a second smaller roof on the high-rise. And one of the boys appears to either fall or be pushed from the smaller roof down onto the second roof, and then people run around him to see what's happening to him. It doesn't look like anyone is beating him to death. I can't even tell if he was pushed or if he just fell or what's going on. But what I can tell you is that even if the caption were true and that's what's happening in the video, That has nothing to do with radical Islamic terrorism. And you can't imply that this applies to all Muslims, which I think is what each of these videos was supposed to do. All 3 of these videos are designed to give you a specific perception of Muslims. They have an example that says, you shouldn't let Muslims in your country because they're bad and they'll beat up your disabled children. Another one, you shouldn't let Muslims in your country because they're bad and they'll smash your religious statues. And the third one, you shouldn't let Muslims into your country because they're bad and they'll kill each other, I guess. But none of these videos had to do with radical Islamic terrorism. There are no terrorists in this video. There are no terrorist actions in this video. The most violent one is an altercation between 2 teenage boys that can be easily solved by having an adult intervene. So I don't understand Donald Trump's defense of his tweets by saying that it's about national security and radical Islamic terrorism. Those videos have nothing to do with that. He adds no further context or commentary until after the backlash. So I think he just assumed that he was going to get away with it and that people would think it's fine. I don't know. But let's talk about why this is incredibly hypocritical for Donald Trump, who purports to be anti-terrorism, although, he wouldn't choose a side in Charlottesville. Britain First is a terrorist organization because of how they operate. They operate by specifically attempting to target and radicalize people both online and in real life with propaganda, by taking to the streets and going to Muslim neighborhoods and purposefully trying to escalate things into physical altercations, and by radicalizing their members to the point where they have been repeatedly convicted in a court of law for religiously motivated harassment. And finally, the most damning example is that one of their members was actually so radicalized that in 2016, because of the impending Brexit vote, he actually went and screamed "Britain First" and then stabbed and shot Member of Parliament Jo Cox, killing her. So this is an organization that so radicalizes people that they actually go out and murder politicians to try and deter people from voting in ways that they don't like. I don't think there is a more straightforward definition for a terrorist organization. This is an organization designed to divide, to intimidate, and to escalate, and that is what they are doing. And so when Donald Trump retweets from this source to his over 42 million followers, it is a fucking problem. And Donald Trump, of course, as usual, was not open to any kind of criticism. Instead, he began attacking people, and my absolute favorite is his attack on Theresa May, where he says, "Don't focus on me, focus on the destructive, radical Islamic terrorism that is taking place within the United Kingdom. We are doing just fine," he says, weeks after multiple mass shootings have claimed dozens of lives. But that's not even the funny part about this. The funny part about this is he tweeted this to @Theresa May, who is not Theresa May, but Teresa Scrivener, a completely different strange woman who received a tweet from Donald Trump. So that's really funny. He then dirty deleted it and then shared the tweet again to Teresa_May, which is actually Theresa May, and I just love that he can't even be bothered to verify that he's criticizing the right person. It just is so emblematic of Trump's lack of an ability to really do anything. He's just completely incompetent. But, this whole thing, it's just particularly frustrating and particularly ironic because of the stance and claims he makes about terrorism and his continued effort to demonize and stereotype Muslims. It's so blatant, and you can't argue that this isn't racist or bigoted. And for those of you who go, Islam isn't a race, okay, but you're obviously talking about Arabic Muslims specifically, because I don't see you shitting on Indonesian Muslims nearly as much. Your problem isn't Muslims, it's Arab people, and we all know it. So let's be real. Yes, it's racist. They are trying to paint Arabic people and Muslims in a very specific way. They are trying to say that if you have one video of a Muslim doing a bad thing, that should be representative of all Muslims doing bad things, because that is what the perception it creates is for people who don't bother to understand or have any more nuance or grasp of cultures other than their own. And it's even more frustrating when you recognize that there are hundreds of millions of Muslims. I think there's over 1 billion Muslims worldwide at this point. And they come from vastly different regions, they exist in many different races and skin colors, and they have just a myriad of different beliefs. See, Islam is specifically the Quran and the writings of Muhammad. Islamic hate is Sharia, is cultural dress, is interpretation of religious laws, everything else that varies from region to region and country to country. To try and flatten Islam to one thing, or to flatten the Islamic hate to one specific culture or one specific behavior, is disingenuous and intellectually dishonest, because you are fundamentally forced to eliminate nuance, eliminate shades of gray, and lie to create this perception. It's the same thing as Donald Trump claiming that Muslims were celebrating 9/11 in New Jersey. No, they weren't. It's the same thing as people asking repeatedly why Muslims don't denounce terrorism, even though they do. All the time, and have historically, every single time, been the first to speak out against the worst among them. And I think, yes, you absolutely have to own the bad apples in your community. You have to talk about them. It's why I don't ever say that a TERF is not a real feminist. She is. She's just a bad feminist. And I'll acknowledge that. It's not that terrorists aren't real Muslims. They're bad Muslims. And to try and claim that all Muslims are like that, or that we shouldn't allow them into our countries, you know, after we endangered their countries so much that they needed to flee to our countries, I don't understand it. I don't think it's reasonable, and I'm tired of it. So that's everything I have for you on this. If you have any thoughts, let me know in the comments section down below. If you like my videos, subscribe. If you don't like my videos, I'm positive that you will tell me. So that is everything I have for you on this. Wiedersehen.